Presentation, I'd like to give you a brief background and outline the purpose of tonight's meeting. First of all, thank you all for attending this session. Member engagement and input is very important for the success of our club. The background of tonight's meeting. In the fall of 2009, the board asked the Golf Committee to develop a course long-range enhancement plan with the assistance of a golf course architect. In January of 2010, the committee issued a request for proposal to 5 qualified golf course architects. After review of the request for proposal and reference checks, we interviewed 3 candidates. Jeff Mingay was selected in February of 2010. The Golf Committee waited until the results of Dr. Ray Ferrer's membership survey was completed in November 2010. After analyzing the answers to the golf questions, Jeff and our superintendent, Darryl Maxwell, surveyed the course and discovered many infrastructure issues on our 50-year-old golf course. The hole-by-hole analysis is included in tonight's handout. Due to the high cost of fixing the infrastructure, the committee asked Jeff to develop an option to improve the golf course's design while fixing the infrastructure. In December 2011, the club published a detailed document summarizing all the issues the golf course analysts with all the analysts and options. The document is still on the website, and there's few copies available in hard copy. In January and February of 2012, 4 golf course focus groups were held. 1 group were past presidents, while the other 3 were randomly selected golf members who represented the different demographics of the club. It involved a total of 67 members, and they all filled out an exit survey. Focus groups tested 3 options: status quo, continue with current practices; fix infrastructure and leave the golf course as is; and C, fix infrastructure while improving the course's design and character. 98% of the participants agreed the golf course infrastructure had to be fixed. 90% of them supported the option to improve the course's design and character while fixing the infrastructure. The long-range planning committee and the board have not yet chosen which option to present to the shareholders for approval. Tonight's meeting's purpose is to allow Jeff to present the proposed design and, more importantly, to seek your feedback. Our next steps will be as follows. The long-range planning committee will present their proposal that included golf course as well as athletic and clubhouse to the board in midsummer. The board will finalize the proposal and communicate it to the shareholders in late summer. We anticipate the shareholders will vote on the proposal in late September or early October. Please check the club's website under the LRP tab on the club's homepage. It has all the detailed information and is updated as new information becomes available. Tonight, Jeff is going to present his side slow and commentary. Following that, he'll be very happy to take questions and comments. Tomorrow morning, Jeff is holding 2 on-course sessions along with Darryl Maxwell at 6:30 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. He will tour the new holes that he proposed, and there's still spots available if anybody would like to participate. See Darryl Maxwell and he'll include you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jeff Mingay.
Thanks everyone for coming out, your interest in the plan that we developed for the golf course. I've never seen it this way. So, thanks, Ron. And you know, as Ron mentioned, the golf course here is 50 years old now. And as I've mentioned in the past, you know, a golf course isn't much different than an older home. You know, as things age on this planet, parts of those things cease to function any longer. And as part of the analysis that Darryl Maxwell and I did on the golf course, you know, we did, as Ron mentioned, identify a number of deficiencies and architectural problems with the golf course. That's always the first step in developing a plan for golf course improvement. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people believe that us as designers fly in and just have these newfangled ideas because we're smarter than everyone else on how to improve a golf course and change its design, but that's not necessarily the case. You know, as in all disciplines of architecture, you know, form follows function, and what that basically means is, you know, we need this golf course, like a building architect needs a building to function properly before we come up with all the design ideas and interesting golf things that we incorporate. So again, working with Daryl, we identified a number of issues with the golf course relative to function. I'll elaborate on these points as this slideshow continues, but relative to function, there's serious drainage problems on the course. There's serious problems with soil types, turf, and some issues with ponds. From an architectural perspective, the course layout, which has changed significantly since the golf course originally opened for play in 1959, has some issues. Because piecemeal changes have been made to the course, redesign of individual holes. There's a lack of design continuity between the holes on the course. There's a lack of a distinctive style at the Derrick Club, which I'll get into a little bit later. And as I pointed out, one of the first things that amazed me about this golf course, especially considering it's on fairly flat land, is that you've got 14 par 4 and par 5 holes, and 11 of those holes feature no bunkers off the tee. So only 3 of your par 4 and par 5 holes feature fairway bunkers. And just in general, to conclude my introduction, when I look at the Derrick Club, I've been spending a lot of time in Edmonton since 2001, doing some projects here in Alberta, and I'd always heard about the Derrick Club. Kind of just to hear the name the Derrick Club always had this stature about it, and having become familiar with the club in recent years, it's amazing what's happened here. I think since 1999, dining facilities, the fitness, et cetera, this club has become an excellent club and a great location in the city. And I just have to be blunt, as I was last night. I really don't believe that the quality of your golf course matches the quality of other amenities that the club provides. And I think we've got a great opportunity here to match up the golf course with the other amenities at the club, and I'll explain how we're going to do that as we move along here. So as I mentioned, architecturally, actually I should make one point before I continue. As Ron pointed out, Daryl Maxwell has done an excellent job at compiling a hole-by-hole list. I don't know how many of you have seen it or read it, but you should. A hole-by-hole list of the deficiencies that we've identified relative to drainage and those other points that I made, and it's quite eye-opening. I think I'm working with 10 or 12 clubs right now, and again, I'll be honest, at most of those clubs, it's a simple matter of fixing a bunker or taking down a few trees or planting some trees, just fixing and tweaking little things. But I mean, it's very important to understand that this particular golf course has a number of serious deficiencies that are very difficult to fix in piecemeal fashion, by touching up here, touching up there, and again, the list that's been compiled explains that quite well. Getting back to the architecture of the course, again, the layout has changed quite a bit since the course was originally designed in the late 50s. The most notable change happened when the current driving range was installed in its current location. Prior to that, the driving range was left of numbers 15 and 16 in that area where there's condominium buildings now. When the club sold that land in, was it the 80s or something, Daryl? I'm not sure exactly. 70s, 80s. The driving range was moved from that location to its current location, which necessitated changes to the original layout of the golf course. And that resulted in some significant change in the sequence of play and how the holes are laid out. And in analyzing the golf course as it is today, there's three main things that I identified that probably should be resolved or should be resolved. And the first issue is there's quite a few awkward transitions between holes. In most of the great courses of the world, it's pretty clear once you finish playing on a particular green where the next tee is. And just to give you an example, during my first visit to the Derrick, I got down to the first green and I wanted to go left, but that's number 4. So somebody told me the next tee is around the 3rd green. Then I got up to the 2nd green and I was ready to go to number 11. Oh no, the next hole's back 40, 50, 60 yards or wherever that tee is. So those types of transitions are quite awkward, and they're not ideal if we're in fact wanting to present the best possible golf course we can out here at the Derrick Club. There are also a number of safety issues, which I really like aesthetics when it comes to golf courses, really, really pretty golf courses. And one of the things that stood out to me immediately out here was the number of nets out on the golf course. As soon as you see a net behind 5 green and a net down the road next to number 9 and all the nets at the driving range, again, less than ideal. And I think we can solve a number of these safety issues, such as behind 5 green, right of 9, some of the issues in and around the driving range area, through the proposed rerouting of the golf course, which, if you've looked at it, basically includes the creation, or involves the creation of 5 new holes. We're proposing to continue to play through 13 existing hole corridors, but again, creating 5 new holes to tie into those 13 existing corridors to create a better flow from the first tee to the 18th green to resolve some of the safety issues that I just mentioned. And the last point about the course layout is the lack of variety that immediately stood out to me. And by that I mean, in a modern context, there really aren't any long par 4s at the Derrick Club. And on the same subject, there aren't any short par 4s. You look at your golf course and the majority of the holes range between 345 and 390 yards. You're missing a 440 yard or 450 yard hole. And again, you're missing a 320-yard par 4, which everyone enjoys to play. And then another issue relative to variety is the par 3 holes. And again, I'm speaking from a back tee yardage, which is the easiest way to sort of refer to golf holes, because whatever the back tee yardage ends up being and how that hole plays for a better player, it should play similarly from the forward tees. If a scratch player is playing a 220-yard par 3, and it's the longest par 3 on the course, for whoever's playing the forward tee, it should also be the longest par 3 on the course for them. And the par 3s out here are all, I think they're all 212 yards, except for, well, 3 of them are, and the other one is around 200 yards. And ideally, a golf course should feature, the par 3s are the most exciting holes to play for most people, and the par 3s should feature more variety, ranging from the plan that I've presented actually has a set of par 3s that range from 145 yards to 240 yards, and a few that fall in between. And again, that would set up the same way for the middle tees and the forward tees in terms of that variety of distance that we're looking to create through the plan I've proposed. Which brings me again to one of my favorite subjects. I've been presented with a question, some people who studied the plan that we presented, as to why the par is 34-36, par 70. As golf course architects, whether we are working with a brand new piece of property to build a new course or taking a look at improving a course like the Derrick Club, basically what we're trying to do is create the best holes that we can possibly find on the property. However the par, the total yardage, the course rating, the slope, all of that stuff shakes out. That's a byproduct of guys like myself creating the best golf course that we can possibly create. We don't even think about par, total yardage,